You mentioned McDonald's, Brad, and there is a story that we have to talk about with McDonald's. That's thing number 3 this morning. After more than 30 years, McDonald's is selling its business in Russia. The fast food chain telling Yahoo Finance, quote, the humanitarian crisis caused by the war in Ukraine and the precipitating unpredictable operating environment have led McDonald's to conclude that continued ownership of the business in Russia is no longer tenable, nor is it consistent with McDonald's values. The company, by the way, has 800 locations. It has over 60,000 workers within Russia. Now, remember, McDonald's had already said it was, reviewing its business there like so many companies have. But the difference with McDonald's is when it went in there, I think it was 32 years ago, it was really seen as creating a bridge with the West, right? This was sort of a beacon of the U.S., of the West in Russia. Reportedly 30,000 people lined up on the day that it opened to get in there. And so this, to me, obviously it has to do with McDonald's and they're taking a charge related to this, but it also has to do, again, with this fundamental breakage between Russia and the West.
Yeah, and for McDonald's, the de-arching is what they're calling in this portfolio of restaurants that they do have. They're going to be selling this to a local buyer in Russia and kind of initiating that process. They're actually no longer going to be using the McDonald's name, logo, branding, and menu in this region, but they're going to be able to retain a lot of their intellectual property rights, and that's a huge part of the considerations for the brand moving forward if they do decide at a later date to somehow re-enter into the region.
My question is, who's buying all these assets? I understand McDonald's may have found a buyer in this case, but you have Yum Brands. They have suspended their operations. They, of course, operate KFC in China. They are, I believe, are looking for a buyer of their assets. It's assets across the board.
And
who's buying this stuff?
And what are they buying it
for?
With?
Yep,
right.
What are they buying it with? In other words, McDonald's is not taking rubles for this stuff, right? That in the current sanctions regime, I assume would not be tenable. So if it is a Russia-based entity, how are they getting dollars, if indeed that's how they're paying? And I think there are some questions around that.
But it really sends a major signal. It really tells you that McDonald's does not see itself operating in Russia ever again, which is a major signal, not just for McDonald's, for businesses around the world.
And where do they move that revenue income back to? What other regions
they raise prices on our Big Macs here in the U.S., Brad.
Certainly, yeah. 9% of McDonald's global revenue in 2021 came from Russia, Ukraine. So finding other sources to see where that revenue is going to be coming in from, critical here too.